Hello everyone and welcome to the second lecture on Advanced Excel class. In the previous lesson, we had looked at understanding Excel interface and how to navigate around Excel. And in this particular lesson, we're going to have an understanding of how to enter data into Excel sheet. With that said, let's get started with today's lesson. So what I'm going to do is to head over to the search bar and search for Excel program. And because I have Excel installed, I'm going to go ahead and open and takes some few seconds for Excel to open up, and here it is. So when Excel opens up, you have two options. You can either continue with a blank workbook, or you can continue with ready-made templates. So you can click here, you can see there are some more templates here, and you can see they are ready-made templates for your specific task related according to your desires. But what we are going to do is to click on a blank workbook, and when you click on a blank workbook, then you're going to see this interface which we had looked earlier in lecture 1, and this interface looks like this. And by default, when you open Excel, Excel provides you with one default worksheet which is named worksheet 1, and this is the area where you are going to start entering your data. So you can see this worksheet is made up of cells, and when you want to enter data into Excel sheet, you just click on any of the cell to make it active, and then when the cell is active, you can now go ahead and enter the data that you want to enter into the cell. For example, now my B3 cell is active, and then I can go ahead and enter any data that I want to enter. Let's say the name of the person, John, or I can enter the name of a place, maybe Nairobi. All right. So when you want to enter data into Excel, what you do basically is to click on the cell to make it active. And then when the cell is active, you can now go ahead and type the data you want to type. With that said, let's look at the data types in Excel. So when you're entering data into Excel, by default, Excel classifies that data into four categories. The first category of data is the text data, and the text data includes all the alphabetic data. Any data that you enter which contains of letters is classified as text data. For example, the name of a place, the name of a person, or any data that contains the text. For example, here Peter is the name of a place, and because it contains a series of letters, that is a text data. Another type of data that you can enter into Excel is the numerical data. And the numerical data is any data that consists of numbers, whether it is a whole number or it is a decimal. So when I enter maybe the age of the person, 25 or 26, 26 is a number. Or when I enter maybe the percentage of the marks scored by this person, maybe 0.75, because this is a number, it's also classified under numerical data. So we have text data, and then we have numerical data. Another type of data that is defined by Excel is the Boolean data. And a Boolean data is a data which takes only two values. It can be true or it can be false. It can be true or it can be false. So this kind of data is called a Boolean data. Another type of data that is defined by Excel is the error data. Error data. When you enter any data into Excel which consists of errors, then Excel classifies it as error data. So depend, for example, let's say you enter a formula, you're dividing a number by 0. You know, a number by 0 gives us an error. It's an indefinite result. So when you press enter, you can see that it gives an error, division by 0, which is equal to infinite, and this is an error. So depending on the type of data that you enter into Excel sheet or the Excel cell, Excel decides the position where this data is aligned in the cell. For example, if you look at this text data, all the text data is aligned by Excel towards the right, I mean towards the left of the cell. And if the data is numerical in nature, then Excel will align it to the right of the cell. You can see here 26 is right aligned, 0.7 is right aligned, and when the text is Boolean, then by default Excel aligns that text to the center of the cell. So you can see true is aligned to the center, false is aligned to the center. Likewise, when the data is an error, Excel also aligns the data towards the center of the cell. So what I'm going to do is to just align or enter this data into one column. So we have here a column called data types. And here I'm going to enter text data, the name of a person, John. And because John is a text data, you can see this value is aligned towards the right of the cell. So let me increase the length of the cell so that it can be a bit more clear. So you can see John is aligned to the right, to the left of the cell. If I enter the age, maybe 26, because it's a number, it will be aligned to the right by default. If I enter true, because true is a Boolean value, it will be aligned to the center of the cell. If I enter also false, because false is a Boolean value, it will also be aligned to the center of the cell. If I enter any error, let's say try to divide a number by 0, then it is also aligned to the center of the cell. So you can see that depending on the type of the data, Excel decides the position in the cell where the data will be aligned. So with that said, in summary, when you want to enter data into Excel, you just place your cursor in the cell to make it active, and then you go ahead and type. And depending on the type of the data that you enter into the cell, Excel will decide by default which position the data will be aligned. So with that said, we've come to the end of this lesson. In the next lesson, we will have a look on how to edit the data that you enter into the cell. Thank you and see you in the next lesson.